Good evening, wherever you are watching us. This is Mapanza Kwilimba of TV Bakwetu, and we are back with our weekly program dubbed Hearing from the Constituencies. Now, today we were looking forward to the return of the Permanent Secretary for Technical Services at the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development, Mr. Wisdom Bwalia. Last time we talked, it was before or just after the CDF guidelines were launched. So we wanted to find out from him, what has happened in a number of areas so that we get feedback as to what is happening countrywide, since he's the one who is responsible from the technical side of things. And he has sent an apology, something cropped up in the last minute, but he has assured us that he will be available next time so that he can answer some of the questions that we have had for him. But this is the third week. For the last 2 weeks, we have had a challenge, some similar technical challenges. Some of it was actually technical, but the other time, last week, we had asked somebody, a Ward Development Committee chairperson from Mukushi, but because of technical challenges for people in the rural areas, we could not have the program. But we thought that we cannot have another week going by without discussing what is happening in the constituencies, and as far as the CDF is concerned. So really today, if you are hearing us, please do join us, especially if you are coming from any constituency as a member of the Ward Development Committee, or just a community member who would like to say something or ask questions about the CDF and the working of the Ward Development Committees. Please feel free, join me so that we can have some kind of chipante-pante discussion on what is happening. So I will start the ball rolling by saying that the CDF guidelines were launched by the Minister of Local Government and Rural Development, Honorable Gary Nkombo, some time back, and since then we have seen the rolling out of those guidelines, countrywide, and there has been some online programs or meetings where people from the ministry have been sensitizing those that are in councils and in constituents generally on the guidelines themselves. And a lot of questions have been asked as the presentations have been done by the officials from the ministry. And since the launch of the guidelines, we have had the two announcements, although actually very recently, I think just about a couple of days ago, a third announcement was made. But the earlier announcements were, on the proposals for the secondary boarding bursaries. And then later on, about 2 weeks later, there was also an announcement for skills development bursaries. And before those two, there was an announcement that was made, for the 2021 CDF funds that had not yet been utilized. And so I think today we are just going to rant around these three areas and, just discussing what has happened, the encouraging things, and perhaps see some areas where there could be improvement. And I'm really looking forward to anybody who is listening and is able to join us using the link that has been sent around, or perhaps a link that is showing on Dr. Elias Munsha's Facebook page. But that one actually, yeah, if the link is showing there, if you click on that link, you'll be able to join us today or tonight, and then we can you can make your contributions on what is happening in your area. And if you've got questions, the questions that we can answer amongst ourselves, we can help each other. But those that we cannot answer, we'll wait for the PS technical services to be available next week. So our experience with first of all, I mentioned those three things, but I would like to, briefly discuss our experience with the 2021 CDF, the funds that were released, after the elections of the new government. And it was good that there was an opportunity to use that funding that was still available, and councils did write to ward development committees to present proposals so that the 2021 funds and perhaps those that remained in 2020 could be utilized. And so that brought a lot of excitement. A number of ward development committees countrywide submitted proposals to councils so that money could be utilized. For us also here in Chilanga, where I belong, we submitted proposals to be funded using the 2021 CDF. That was the 1.6 million that was for previous years. And so, yes, it was exciting to mobilize the community within a short notice. And some of the challenges that we have had was really to quickly, organize zone level meetings so that, whatever project idea that we are going to present would have been something that would have come from the people and not from the ward development committee itself. So I have had reports from other constituencies in other parts of the country, for example, in Chinsali, where people were very excited, then they quickly put up proposals. So I think that there are many places where communities were excited with the availability of that funding, and they presented proposals. We ourselves also, in our case, we did, although we had challenges, meeting zone level people so that they could generate their own ideas, and we could submit a proposal that would have come from the people. But because of time, we quickly had to look around any proposal that had already been discussed in previous years, but may not have been presented for funding. And so, like other wards in Chilanga and other constituencies, we did submit a proposal. And I think this is where I would want to talk about some of the challenges that we have had, at least in our case, because there is something that we can learn from those challenges. First of all, the wards submitted proposals, and the expectation was that immediately after submitting the proposals to the CDF committee, there would have been a feedback. I think the expectation is that as soon as you submit your proposals, you can get a feedback from the CDF committee as to whether your proposal is okay and is being considered, or it needs to be improved. And if it needed to be improved, it would be sent back, and then you would work on it and send it back again for the consideration of the CDF committee. And if it was not satisfactory for the second time, they would again send it back, and perhaps at this point, it could be taken to the next round of funding. And so our experience for that, was that we could not get feedback on the proposals that we submitted. And this was not just one word, it was all the words. We waited for feedback, there was no feedback coming. And then we started pushing for feedback. We wanted to know what happened with the proposals that we submitted for the 2021 CDF. And so when we finally got the feedback, for most wards, they got funding for projects that they did not submit. And, and that was a bit of a challenge, because we had submitted specific projects, and then when the response came, we were given other projects that were funded other than what the ward development committees had submitted. And yes, please.
I know you're in the middle of your floor. I just noticed a technical issue.
Okay.
We started minutes late, so we're not actually live on Facebook. We're only live on we are only live on YouTube and LinkedIn. So I don't think we're going to get a lot of viewers that way. So if you don't mind, if we end this broadcast and I'll send you another link and we resume in 2 minutes.
Okay.
Sorry, I've just looked at the numbers of the viewers, and it just seems, I thought that seems very low. So if I send you another link, and then we just start from where you were.
Okay. I hope people realize that there's another link that has been sent, because remember we distributed the link to many people. I did it to distribute the link to many people in the constituencies. So far, nobody has shown up in the background.
No.
Okay.
Patrick. So if we just set another link, I'm just thinking a lot of viewers are going to miss out on what we got to say this evening.
So yeah. I think the challenge that we have now is that if you create a new link, I may not be able to send it to the people that are expected to join us.
Yeah, that's fine. And then we're just going to carry on. We're just going to carry on and find another way to share.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, just carry on.
Okay. sorry, viewers, about that. Some of these technical issues that we have from time to time. But I'll continue with the ranting that I'm doing. So I'm sharing these challenges that we have had because I think there's something to learn from that. There may be other world development committees that had similar challenges as we did. But I know that there are others who had it smooth. But we're just sharing. And if there's anybody else who's going to join us later, you can share your experiences so far. So yes, I was saying we ended up getting funding for the projects that we did not submit, and the explanation was that the CDF committee decided to fund projects that were not completed in 2020 and in 2021. In fact, some of them went as back as 2020. So we found that as most of the leaders in WADS, we found that a bit of a challenge, because what we expected was that if the proposals that we were requested to submit were not going to be considered, we should have had feedback from the council, from the CDFC, as to what was exactly happening, rather than waiting. While we are waiting for the responses to the projects that we submitted, we ended up receiving funding to projects that we ourselves did not present. And there are challenges, because when there was like, for example, I don't think that there was proper handover from previous ward development committees to those that were newly elected. At least in our ward, there was no handover whatsoever, and there is no way we could have known what projects were uncompleted, and so that's the challenge that we had. And I think for the sake of learning lessons, and if there are people listening from councils, I think we need to begin to operate in a very transparent way. The World Development Committees are committed, to seeing that the resources are used on things, that the ideas that have come from the communities. And if we have mobilized the community and they have come up with project ideas, and we submit those project ideas to the CDFC, and then we hear nothing on those proposals, and instead we begin to see funding from other projects that we did not engage the community with, it creates a problem. Already, some of the experiences that we have had in some wards is that when you go back and you are trying to mobilize people so that they can begin to think through the projects that they would want to do in their communities, in their zones, for 2022 funds, they're already asking questions. Why are you calling us to meetings to discuss project ideas when in the past we have done that and nothing has happened? So it creates challenges, for those that have offered themselves, to serve the communities, because non-action at any level creates distrust on the ground. So if there are any council officials that are listening, not only from my constituents, my council, but councils countrywide, you need to understand that if you are going to work with ward development committees effectively, you will really need to do things professionally, so that those that have offered themselves to serve in ward development committees, begin to be trusted by their communities. So we don't want to see a situation where we are working so hard, and because of some bottleneck somewhere, things are not happening, and meanwhile the community is asking us, what is happening? We submitted these proposals, what's going on? So really, going forward, we hope that those councils that had challenges with the 2021 CDF, they will have learned their lessons then, so that as we work on the 2022 funding going forward, things are going to be better. Having said that, there are two other things that I see. Is that you want to say something, Frank?
Just to jump in there, I think clear communication is very, very important. As a nation is at the moment, there is a lack of trust when it comes to the power. You can see that lack of trust going through. The people asking where they're just false promises are being made. So it's very important that when decisions are made, when people take action, there's clear communication from the powers to be. They have to explain to the people if a project that they've worked on has not been approved. They have to explain to the people this is a reason why this project has not been approved, clearly explained, as you clearly put it, to create a trust between the people who are serving them and the people they're serving. At the moment, there's people will be like, when it was announced, people were like, it's a bit too good to be true. So it's important there's clear communication so that people can contribute. Otherwise, you lose that contribution.
Exactly. Yeah. So the other thing that has happened since then is that the secondary boarding bursaries. There was an announcement that was made, and a deadline was given. But again, I think the challenge we had was the time was very short. The deadline that was given to organize or to advertise and let children that were in boarding schools and they needed help, to apply for those bursaries. It was really a huge challenge. I know that in some in some wards, it was hard to get even one child to apply for the bursaries for boarding school. And I know that I think the councils like ours has sort of extended, delayed meeting to discuss those that applied, so that perhaps a bit more people can apply. But again, this is an area which you would have wanted to seek, some feedback from the PS. But our experience is that I think, like in my case, I really think that there might be a lot of resources that will remain unutilized in this area, simply because of the timing, but also other factors. Like we have already said, where perhaps people thought this was just a talk, and when the announcement was made, they didn't believe that it was true, that there could be this facility available for children in boarding schools. And in some cases, it was just fear from the community, lacking confidence. Just when they hear there's this opportunity, there's this facility available. First of all, they have difficulties believing that it's true, and then since most of these children are coming from poor families, people with little education, there's a question of confidence. I know that we experienced a case here where we were encouraging one parent, to get the applications and apply for their daughter, and we referred them to the zone rep so that they could work with her on that. But that, for them, that was intimidating. So we tried to encourage them, but for some reason they ended up not applying. So the issues that may arise, I don't know how this is working in other constituencies, in other wards, countrywide, but there's a likelihood, it's very likely that a lot of resources allocated in this area will not be utilized. And that's one area where I would have loved to hear from the peers what plans they have. If only 50% of the resources allocated for secondary school boarding is used, what will happen with the other resources?
I think the big question is, I think the big question there, Mr. Nkwilimba, is if you got only 50% resources, only 50% of the resources that has been allocated for boarding, for school bursaries are being used, we got a problem there. And I think we then have to look at how we're going to encourage and educate our people in terms for them to have access to those funds. Because I'm sure there are people in the rural areas as we speak today who would like to send their children to boarding school, but I don't know how many I don't know how all the communities are operating in different parts of the country. But for me, when I listen to you, I'm thinking there's a clear lack of communication. They need a clear communication, and I think if I allocated a certain amount of fund and only 50% was used up, I want to know why. I want to know why only 50%, because I don't see how an opportunity to take your children to a better school, if you think that school is going to be better for them. I don't know how parents might not take the government up on that offer. To me, it feels like there is a clear lack of communication that needs to be worked on. And the fact it's only 50%, for me, that is a worrying sign. It's too many young people who could have benefited from that. And it feels like the deeper you go in the rural areas, the less the communication gets, and the less they get access to the funds. And we were trying to get away from the fact where the Lusaka provinces and the Copperbelt provinces benefit from the CDF more than any other provinces. But what is going to happen if there's no clear communication to our people in the village? They're going to carry on missing out on. How does this communicate? And is the government really looking at creating messages in local languages? We have to go away from this way of we have to communicate in English. How we communicate when we go to Solwezi, when we go to the little village on the outskirts of Solwezi, is there somebody communicating in Kaonde? When we go to Western Province, Kwamangango, is there somebody communicating in Lozi? When we go to Northern Province, is there somebody communicating this in Bemba so that people understand? To me, 50%, and I'm sitting there and I'm quite disappointed. We can't have the funds and say we got the funds. And I think we've done very, very little. I think in terms of the government, in terms of making sure that they have communicated this and people have understood, is 50% and 50% not used. I'll be asking questions, I would.
Yes, Frank, you're right. And as I said, this is an assumption. We are just saying, what if only 50%? So I hope that it will be more than 50% or close to exhausting the funds that are allocated for this. But really, I think that what members of parliament, the councils, even the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development, what they need to begin thinking. And I'm hope that by now they have already started looking at what will be the alternatives if this resource is not utilized for the purpose it was allocated for this year, so that it can quickly be moved to other need areas. For example, the construction of infrastructure, educational. And these are the questions really that I wanted to ask the PS and to just pick his thinking as to what would happen if that was the case, where if at all, not much would have been utilized in that area. The question of communicating. Having grown up in rural areas, I know that teachers play a critical role in communicating, in sharing any information that is coming from any quarters. And I would like to believe that even right now, teachers wherever they are, whether in Mongu, Kalabo, Solwezi, in the Bundus somewhere. I'm sure they are busy communicating to communities there so that they can have the information. I think somehow the information, it's just that the reality of this thing. The guidelines came out late, and it's the first year. So you are dealing with something that has never been dealt with before. So I think it will be normal to have those challenges. I think the question is, what lessons are we learning quickly? And as we face these challenges, the important thing is to quickly, begin to address the challenges that we are facing, so that much more can be done than otherwise. So yeah. So that is about the secondary school bursaries, and then we have um, the skills development bursaries that we also announced later. Oh, by the way, before I move to this, there's also the question of the deadline for submitting secondary school boarding bursaries. I don't think that it's necessary to have a deadline. For example, when the announcement was made, schools were already open. So first term had already started. So there are still 2 other terms in a year. So it does not make sense to have a deadline for submitting the bursaries. There are children that are already in school, and they may need that help in their second term. They'll still need that help in the third term. And so I think that these are the issues I'm saying, that as we come across these challenges, we need to be flexible. These rules should not be cast in concrete. We should be able to be flexible and leave it open-ended. Children can still apply for bursaries because they still have term 2 to pay for, and term 3. And so I hope that the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development are thinking through these issues. Again, these are the questions that I would have loved to hear from the PS, and we are going to bring the PS here so that they can help us, deal with some of these questions that we are asking. So then, talking about the skills development bursaries. Again, there have been a number of challenges that we have faced at the ward level. Application forms are available online. And perhaps the councils could have just helped with a few copies of the hard copies of the application forms. So
I'll just stop you there. I'll just stop you there. This is where we are a little bit, and I think sometimes we have to create a system that is fit for purpose. So when we created a system to say we want to help our young people in a rural area, then we create the application form that are online. Already we are starting on not a very good spot, because nobody in the rural area straight away is going to have access to that form. I think it's very difficult. I think it could have been really looked at and probably printed a lot of more copies to send to the community, and that could have been a way of engaging with the community. People actually go to the communities and we've got these forms to fill in. Nobody in the rural area is going to go online. Sorry.
Exactly. Yeah. So I mean, okay, they have tried. They have tried to give to distribute a few hard copies. Okay. So here you are at the ward level, and you only have a couple of hard copy of application forms, and you have a number of young people wanting to apply. And on the form is written, the form is not for sale. And here you are. What do you do? And so we have ended up, members of the ward development committees, in most cases, have ended up using their own resources to make photocopies of those application forms and to give to the youth that want to apply. And others have just said, look, okay, you are looking for help. Here is a form. Go and pay for photocopying. And you'll be amazed. Many people don't have don't have that kind of. They don't even manage to do those things. Those basic, very basic things. So and when you ask them to pay for the photocopy, but it's written on the form that these forms are not for sale. Yes, we're not selling the form to you. We are just saying have this form photocopied so that you have an opportunity to apply for the help that you are looking for. you know. But you know how people think, like, oh, these people are asking us to pay. No. We are not asking you to pay. So
There's a
there are those
difference.
very
There's a
basic
difference
challenges.
between
Yeah.
there's a difference between me saying, Mr. Nkulimba, can you give me some money for that? And I'll have the form. And me saying, then Mr. Nkulimba, here's a form. Go and
Yeah.
photocopy it. Because you're going to spend money. You're not going to give the money to me. You're
Yeah.
going to photocopy the form. So there's a difference there.
Yeah. Exactly. But you'll be surprised. These young people, they have to make a number of trips, because they had to find an institution, where they could apply, and then so that they have an acceptance letter. Because for them to apply for the bursaries, they have to have an acceptance letter from an institution. So a number of them had to do a number of errands, going to the institution, making an application, going back home, going back to get the acceptance letter. And then another requirement is that there has to be a recommendation from a community leader, a headmaster from the school, wherever, the head teacher from the school where they went to, So they had to spend the money to look around, going back to the schools where they came from, or looking around for somebody within the community to give them a recommendation. So parents were, it's really amazing that the people are, they are so constrained financially that it was a hassle for them to support their children to just run around and get these forms done. So again, that's an area where again, I would have liked to hear from the peers. Can this thing be done differently? Can the resources available still go at, some of it go towards to helping those youths that want to make those applications? Because some of them actually are failing to apply because they cannot get money to go to institutions to go and look for places. That was another challenge that we have learned from in this process.
Well, if somebody's going to be traveling from, let's say, Kalvuma wants to go to Solwezi, that's an old. It might be northwestern province, but I've done that road. That is a long journey on itself. You spend most of the day traveling, so you have to travel from Kalvuma to Solwezi to get recommendation letter to travel back. And you think by the time you do that trip, you might as well just pay boarding school yourself.
Yeah.
There's certain links here that can be removed. What do you need? What do you need? So there are ways that you can cut. There are ways that you can cut out of this process. So, for example, if we want to give money we want to sponsor somebody to go to boarding school, what are we sponsoring? We're sponsoring food, we're sponsoring that, and we're sponsoring that and the other. So you can come up with the ways where we go, right, that school, obviously there's no fees, but obviously there's still boarding fees exists. So if we're not going to give money to that person who's going to the boarding school, but we might say, no, we don't want to give money to a student just in case they don't go to that boarding school. So there's a way that is done in the UK. So in terms of when people get student loans. So when you get student loans here for when you're studying, it goes to university. It's not coming to your bank. It's not coming into your bank account. It goes straight to the university. They pay that. It's gone because the student loan is meant for your fees. So another way that to cut away from that, it could be an idea where they go, right, then somebody will come and say, right, Frank, you want to go to Zambezi boarding school. Zambezi boarding school, the boarding fee is whatever it is. Let's say, for the sake of it, it's 300 kwacha for boarding school at Zambezi. Okay, you've been approved. Zambezi boarding school, we've got Frank Saliki coming to you. Here is a 300 in your account. So that you cut all that corner and you cut all that traveling. Then there is this thing of going back to your old school for recommendations. No, if you got a grade 7 statement of results or a grade 9 statement of results, that should suffice. That should be efficient. Then you're cutting out so many layers. So if I go to Zambezi boarding school and I say, right, I want to come to a boarding school. Okay, where is your statement of results? These are my results I have. These are my grade 9 results. Then that should suffice. That the school that I'm leaving should not have a say in what school I'm going to go to. So then that cuts a lot of corners, a lot of traveling, a lot of back and forth and everything that you can have. And I don't know if there is a way that schools then can communicate to local Ministry of Education, whether in Northwestern Province, say this is a person, we've accepted this person, so that there is a central place where that information is gathered. Otherwise, people are going to do a lot of trip and it's going to become a lot of hassle and people are going to say, no, too much work.
Yeah, exactly. Although technology these days, is it can help because I mean you don't need necessarily to travel to Kaoma or Mongu to go and meet your headmaster. You can just make a call and ask them to do a document and send it on WhatsApp. And then print it and you have your recommendation. But you can imagine for some people that is still a challenge. But I think those are ways of minimizing all these challenges.
Yeah, it's kind of like you said, it's a new process, it's a new thing, a way of doing thing. It's kind of just moving out those teething issues. Like for me, I would remove the recommendation letter from your head teacher. If you've got the results, if you've got 800 on grade 7, you don't need your head teacher to say you're a good student. The results are speaking for themselves. So
exactly. And besides, we are trying to help these young people. Really, these skills, they may be the only opportunity that they have to help them have a future. It does not matter what state they are in now. For example, behavior-wise, they may not be behaving well because they have nothing to do and they are frustrated. But here's an opportunity for them to go and get a skill, and I'm sure that would be one way of trying to help them to even change their behavior, because when they have a skill and they'll be able to do something useful for their lives.
Absolutely, that is correct. Once the young people have something to do, and I mean, research all over the world has shown this. Once you give young people something to do, and their life completely change, their behavior completely change. So it's very important that we have our system that benefits these young people and make it as easy as possible for them to be able to access these resources.
Yeah, now Frank, I don't know how many people are watching, but let's do a bit of marketing. For some of you that are viewing, all of you that are viewing, if you are able to help us, you can give us stars, and that's the way that you could help to keep this program running by giving us stars. So please, if you are able to, do give us stars. Having said that, Frank, I wonder if there's anybody who is asking questions in the only forum that we have. I think, is it one forum or two forum?
Yeah, so we got two, LinkedIn, but LinkedIn and YouTube. No questions at the moment.
Okay.
But yeah, I've asked Dr. Moshe to play it on Facebook later on, so we might be me and you might need to come back and just look at the comments later on.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so it's really a pity that we are unable to have the PS, but as I said, he will be available. I hope that he'll be available next week. And so we could go back to some of these questions that we have raised generally. And in fact, one big question that I've had, and I wanted the PS to address, okay, now they have started making announcements for community projects, and these community projects, they may be, school furniture, school construction, or building, constructing buildings and all that. And my question was, you see, I think, we have big businesses that always think strategically, and they are looking for ways of making money. And with this huge CDF funding, which has come, some big businesses, even with international links, are already gearing up themselves to have their cut. And so, for example, there might be, an organization or a business that provides building materials. So they're already beginning to look at ways of making sure that they benefit from that. Another example is school desks. Already some big businesses are gearing up to make these desks in thousands and then make them available to be bought by schools. And the question is, if that is to happen, then the benefit will not go to the individuals, the artisans in communities, the carpenters, the bricklayers. Money may not go in their hands because they are competing with these big businesses. And this is really one question that I wanted the PS to to answer. How are we going to protect, the ordinary artisans, against these big businesses that are already lining up to get a chunk of this money?
Yeah, that has always been my concern. That has always been my concern. And I've always said, if it's going to be a success, we have to make sure if a school is going to buy desks, and we have to then make sure that there's a project that is going to come into from that community. These are we need desk. Okay. Who can make desk in our community? We use our experience. We got experienced carpenters in the villages. We take those experienced carpenters. They train young people in the village. They make sure that and everyone in the committees, in the community development committees, make sure that those people are making it all from the committee. They go and buy wood from somebody, business who's doing that business in the committee. That everything that they do in that process, where possible, is done. The majority of the work is done. The majority of the resources are coming from people in the community. The moment you get other people from my area, people from the Copper Belt, from Lusaka coming in and doing all of this, that money goes. That community, exactly. The only thing they're going to have is desks.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the only thing they're going to have is desks and nothing. And that money has gone out of the community. However, if everything that is done, everything that is brought around the community, then that money is revolving around the community. It's going around the community and everybody gets to benefit. If the outsiders come and do all the businesses, the communities do not benefit at all. They lose out.
Exactly. And I guess the struggles between people who want to push and see that these resources are utilized in a timely fashion, and and then on the other hand, you have these carpenters who have the skills to do these things, but then the burning rate of the funds may be slow. Because right now you have to talk about mobilizing those people that have good skills and organizing materials, the wood and all that. For example, if they are going to do desks, it might take a while. But those are the things that we should be prepared to to tolerate, because it's far much better if the resources go within the communities rather than Frank. It's not just big businesses in the country. There are big business internationally that are coming and begin to work with local people, and when the money is paid, it's going to go to those international businesses. We don't want this CDF fund, to leave the country, to go to some other company internationally because they have to provide building materials. Okay, they have an idea of, okay, you may have agents in a district, but the agents receive the materials so that, when something is to be contracted or constructed, the materials will be available at the district level, at a warehouse or something like that. It sounds good, but actually it's not going to benefit the local economy. It's going to benefit that company, which is an international company.
Yeah, essentially what they're doing is they'll be saying, hello, we're in your country, we can sell you this. You give them all their money, they take all your money and they go. And you benefit nothing. It goes and benefit the country where they come from.
Yeah. So I think really, I would want I think TV Bakwethu, this is one thing we want to challenge the government, especially the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development. Yes, it's good to have some of these facilities, but let's look at the end results. Is the money going to remain at the ward level, at the constituency level, at the district level, or even nationally in Zambia? If we begin to allow processes that are going to take away money from the ward, from the constituents, from the district, from the province, from the country, then what are we doing? So I think let's use this CDF to benefit the local economy at every level.
Absolutely, I agree with that one. Make sure the money is there for the locals, and make sure it doesn't leave our country either.
Yeah. So, well, Frank, I think perhaps we can end here, and really, today we just raised the questions and discussed what we would have loved the PS Technical Services at the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development, Mr. Wisdom Waria, to address. And as I said earlier on, we are going to bring him back, and I hope that he will be available next Saturday. And so you may end up hearing the same things that we have discussed today, but at least we'll have somebody who will be able to give us some perspectives from the government on these issues that we have raised. So for now, thank you, Frank, and thank you, viewers, those that have been able to join us. Until next Saturday from 20 hours, we say bye for now, and may God bless you. Thank you.
Goodbye, and thank you.